Um, Hello. What's up? I said to like the one person who commented on my last video that I was planning to do more. I think that was like February. Um, and then life be busy, so I didn't do more. And listen, I'm not. This isn't even gonna be drawing, okay? I just saw something and I was like, I need to share my thoughts. And anyone who I would usually like talk about my mini I don't know art analysis is not available right now, and I can't wait. I gotta get this out of my system like now. So if you came here to see doodles, uh that's not it. So you could just leave if this is not your thing. If you want to hear me talk the way I do, um in more my professional setting, but I'm not gonna be doing specifics. I'm just gonna say like I'm gonna do this art analysis as the perspective of a working professional in the industry, in the video game industry. Like we're doing this art analysis of, and here's our topic, okay, of the age of mythology Retold. Okay, this is a new game. Um, well, kind of a remastered rework of an older game. Like I'm talking Windows XP. Like this game was presented to me and my siblings when I was at the ripe age of like 7. um, and it is one of the only games that me and my father have actually had a shared interest in. So I've played it a lot, and when it was Age of Mythology was put on Steam, with emulator engine or whatever it's done for Windows XP, we bought it and we play it. And so I actually knew that this remaster here, let me pull up a picture of their like promotional art here. This was coming up uh a while ago because my I through the grapevine of the gaming art and like the art part of the gaming industry, um but I never got to work on it anyway. So uh it's in beta and I was like, oh dang, I'm gonna pre-purchase and play or whatever. And that's besides the point because beta, and I ran into a bug and I was like, I'm dealing with this, and closed it. um but I was like looking at some stuff, seeing what people thought of it, and I mean, like, voice acting is a different realm, and I'm not gonna get into that. But people talking about the rework of the art, uh, being done with AI, and if you're like, oh brother, I do not want to hear about AI art, I feel you. I honestly don't really want to talk about it either. But what I'm actually gonna talk about is the real issue with why this art is not gonna feel as good as the original game, or like, and I'm gonna count in like biases of nostalgia and not, and I just want to like debunk some things, I guess, or just, I don't know, expand general knowledge. Okay, so I'm gonna just, I have no plan. I'm not video essaying this in proper format. Okay, this is gonna be a little chaotic, but so here's my main thoughts, and I'll break it down, and I'll do picture references. You're not just gonna stare at my clip screen here, like, don't worry. So the main thing I have here is like the misconceptions. One, misconceptions. There, the misconceptions regarding AI, okay, and its use today in the industry, okay, specifically. uh Industry. I'm not writing that shit, okay? Anyways, it's misconceptions, okay? The second part being like uh like how do I put this? Um Quality, okay? And what constitutes of good or bad, and in regards to bias versus facts. Okay. Um, and then I guess the next little main piece would be like trends and I'm gonna say like operations. Okay, so it like because if you're in the industry, like people will talk about AR or how AR art is, or like what's like, oh, like whether it's a moral standpoint, a technicality standpoint, should we use it, should we not use it, is it gonna be the future of art, is it not, are we gonna go back to giving more value to human art because of AI, or is it going to be devalued? These are all bigger conversations that I'm not going to talk about, but that because they're part like AI spawned a lot of things, but realistically in how it is um being discussed behind the doors of these companies making these games that you people don't really see. I mean, you people, as in someone who doesn't actually work in games, okay? Whether you are a programmer or a concept artist, animation, like whatever department you are in, okay, you are going to interact with it a different way. And that's going to also be a different way from all the viewers versus consumers versus marketing. Like, there's so many different factors at play. And so, my biggest issue when I saw people being like, "Oh, this new artwork is being done with AI," and I was like, "Well, there's different levels of how it's being used in AI, and this is where you're gonna get the people who made the arguments of like, oh, well, people said the same thing about using photographs and photo bashing, like it, this it's application, um, and also the things that are like realistically done, and you also have to consider like the who's making the game, the size of the studio. Like, it's always like, yeah, you should always try and go for more human artists, and that should always matter. But I guess my real point is to like debunk and like uh, there's probably tons of people have written this much more descriptive and thoroughly in a way that is more concise, but the main point being like that the argument shouldn't be like in quality, like, oh, because AR's bad, or like I can tell it looks AI generated, or blah blah blah. Like, it's always okay. It's gonna get to the point you're not gonna be able to tell anymore, even if you super zoom in. And a lot of that is actually gonna start being harmful to artists who make genuine mistakes. And I've started to see this popping up on Twitter now and again, or other websites, where it's like someone says you're AI. It's like, no, they're just learning. And like, one of my coworkers before AI existed has like, and she's a very well drawn skill level, just once actually drew a character with 6 fingers. Like, it just happens, guys. And the argument on the basis of it being not good enough or like errors will not last, and most importantly, it will not actually fix the problem or like be preventive, because this game and its art and the issues with it, I've seen only a few people actually make videos or whatever about it specifically. Like, you Google it and there's other people making videos. But first, I only watched one, but he just like zooms in and goes, like, I have issues with it, or this looks sus, or like it was all about that visual technical error. And like, it's gonna get to a point where like people like that aren't gonna be able to identify it, and then we're gonna still get like, once it slips past your ability to analyze, and even those like things of like send it, like if you put an image into it, it says scan for AI or not, um like those are also artificial intelligence, like, or I mean, this is once again my other thing. It's machine learning, not artificial intelligence. I think the description is very important. Sorry, not description. The label that we give it. Um, that is a program. That is a program. That is an algorithm. That is something that has been used to try and tell you what is or isn't, and those are going to fail you as well. The same way all of those AI preventive things are, like, what was it, like glazing or whatever. Like, nothing is guaranteed, and this is not meant to be like a defeatist attitude of like, you know, uh the piss is in the pool water. Like, this you need to know the core issue in order to actually make a proper case against it, and most importantly, encourage people to not use it and encourage developers to not use it. To just say it looks bad is not a good enough reason, because like, developers are just gonna care about what sells. Okay, maybe not developers, but the investors or whoever is behind the money aspect is just gonna care about what sells. And this is where you're gonna get people who have really good ideas for art or art direction have their things get thwarted by people above them, because they're gonna be like, I don't think that sells according to such and such trends. And I see this in town halls at my company all the time. And those people who work at those executive levels, like, you know of it. I'm sure a lot of you are aware. Classic case of someone who doesn't actually have a background in art trying to direct art, okay? And it's a similar concept, and you need to convince them, because they do not have that technicality. You need to be able to actually explain why they shouldn't, in a way that isn't purely based on the visual quality, on if it looks good or not, because when it starts to look good or not, they're not going to care, because they'll say it looks fine, it'll sell. And hold on, I'm losing my thought here for a second. Like, in a way, and you can't rely entirely on morals either, because some people are going to agree with having a more human moral standpoint, and other people just care about getting that bag, you know? So that's my spiel to start that overview. So we'll get a little bit into some detailed examples here. And this, like, if you're just actually watching this and you're curious, I'm gonna explain to you why trying to overanalyze something to why it's AI or not, like, you can't, because I saw this in so many comments on, like, the actual game forum of the game page, Reddit forums, Steam, everything, and tons of different places. I saw people being like, I'm an artist and I know how to spot AI. And I'm like, like, I'm not saying you don't, but I'm saying there's going to be a point that you can't. And some of these people saying, like, I'm an artist. I'm like, yeah, you want to, like, this is not to be taken the wrong way. Like, I'm not going up saying, like, oh, you're an artist, because yes, anyone can be an artist. Okay, skill level has nothing to do. If you're an artist, if you draw and you say you're an artist, you're an artist. Okay, but what I'm saying is, you just saying you're an artist is not going to give the credentials of someone who's working in the industry or higher up. Like, we don't care about your schooling on what's going to get you a job in the industry. We care about your level portfolio. Alternatively, there's a lot of more actual business type demand dynamics in these kinds of companies and these kinds of game developments, that if you can't say, oh, I actually have experience in working with these programs or these issues, like, this is what I'm saying. It's not about whether you went to school or that you're an artist or not. It's whether you have the credentials to actually prove that you know what you're talking about. And that can come in any form, whether it is technical experience or years of experience on games that have launched. There's different ways, but I'm saying, like, you can't just be like, I'm an artist, so I know. I'm like, I looked at it and I'm like, in the most thinnest layer of it, but you do not know what's behind it. And your complaint is not going to convince devs or devs of other games to not do this, because of those reasons I said earlier, like quality. I'm trying to find this other image here, because there was a few. Okay. I think this one was like a screenshot from something, and there was like one more. Like, there's others, I think, now that's in beta, some screenshots floating around, but I'm just gonna take the ones that have apparently been up for a while that I didn't notice. So we're gonna go over these. All right. So we're gonna build our way up, because I think, like, these were like the first release. Okay. And honestly, someone's being like, oh, someone's saying that this one was worse than some of the other ones, and I disagree. Okay. They're like, for whatever reason, saying it was worse or okay, whatever. So first piece, I guess I should go with this. You look at these, and one of the main things people were saying was, like, the art style's not consistent. The art style's not consistent between these, so that means it's AI. Okay? Here's my first counter argument to that. Okay? Staffing. Staffing. And That is so real. Okay, staffing. Okay, 2 also um output, and then we also these are more like not this is not a pipeline. Staffing, output. What's another way to really highlight this? I have the word on the tip of my tongue here. Um, because it's just like there's so many like amount of assets. Like okay, like how many assets you have to do. Okay, uh, time. Okay, like, and followed by that, uh. Like, and then this is kind of gonna go over through all of these, art, direction. Okay, whatever. I'm not. If I'm doing typo writing, leave me alone. Okay, I'm not. I'm not a handwriter. Okay. Anyways, so staffing, output, asset time, art direction. These are the biggest things. And here's my top counter argument to you on all this. Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering. Okay. In all of their art, it is varied. All of this art is varied. Okay? Every single one of these is varied. Like you're going to have stuff from this style to this style. Like a lot of these are going to be in your typical like realistic based things, but there is often art that is done as a promotional by a specific artist that they want to highlight. Like this is different. This is such a different style from some of this here. We're going to have art like this. You know, there is one artist that I really love, and I can't remember the name, or if I typed it, it'd be really like, it's like Dominic something, and he's got such a much more realistic, but in a lot of ways graphic based style. Like these are done different. I don't think this is okay. Anyway, so like this is different in a lot of these styles that when you compare this, it's all realistic, but there's difference in style. You have the same thing going on here, okay? Um, so to say difference in style means that it is AI is not a good counter argument. Even art inside art in D&D books are also going to be different, okay? Not just from older, but I mean even character to character. If like I don't play D&D, but I flipped through the books. These are not pictures. Like just some of these artworks, okay, are going to be different in terms of style and level of finish. Overall, you get a general sense of what's going on. But I've noticed if you actually flip through some of these books, especially like the monster manuals or whatnot, the individual artwork in a lot of these will still have some level of difference between how it's drawn and how it's executed and painted. And it's like actual person's art, but it's done differently. But it still fits a yes overall look that matches the feel of Dungeons and Dragons. Okay. Now we're getting this here, but that's I don't know. Like I don't think they're gonna do in their books. But maybe they do now. Who knows? But the point being, in those first, like that very first book that came out at the start of 5e, like those first few books, you will still see variation in art style, even those, okay? And this comes from these parts of like, you have so much stuff to make and you're going to have a deadline to meet. They want to have this product released in a certain amount of time. And to have it all be super consistent, you're going to need more than one artist to work on, okay? This happens in tons of games. And unlike some games that are indie where they might only have an artist team of 2 or 3 people, maybe like one for characters, one for environment, one for props, okay? You're not going to get something for splash art, especially splash art like this, okay? Like, and I'm not using this as a quality benchmark of like what should be considered good or not, but this level of detail, this level of finish, this level of realism. There's tons of things in splash art like that stuff. Dude, this stuff, especially when you get into like how many revisions and if someone says, "Hey, can you change this to like a different design or whatever?" Like that stuff takes so freaking long, guys. Okay, that is someone who's got a like full like salary 9 to 5, 5 days a week job. depending how fast or good you are, it could take anywhere, yeah, from maybe like 2 days to 2 weeks to 2 months, depending on the complexity. And especially when you start getting into splash arts that are of multiple characters. All right. So that is like the other big piece I got to toss you guys in. All right. So now, when we get into thinking about those things, how many people, what's going on, that's where you're going to need things like art direction, okay? This is where you should have someone who's overseeing it, and that will keep that stylistic consistency, regardless of whether it's realistic, which would prevent us having from something like, honestly, like this, which even though realistic is very different from this, okay? This is more of a soft render type thing. You're gonna have a lot of blooms. This has got honestly a lot more of overpaint elements, okay? And this is this one, okay? So this piece in the middle is more reminiscent of something that's going to be like photo bashed, okay? Where they're using like photo texture. You can see it here, and the little pieces like probably took barnacle pieces, like some of this is probably painted, some of this photo bashed. The beard very likely got someone to put photo bash, and then they're painting it in to clean up some edges, blah blah blah. Like, okay, whether this is AI generated or not, that is what is happening in a lot of this. Okay. Compared to something like this is a soft render, which is not my particular kind of thing. I mean, I'd say the worst example of soft render that is kind of cringe is Sakami-chan or whatever the frick her name was. Like, I don't like this style personally for various reasons. In terms of quality, like if you zoom out, you look at them, you're like, yeah, it's realistically styled, it's got a decent finish, etc., 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 and that's where AI tricks you. But like, that would be the biggest thing in terms of like, if you have an art director, they would be like, oh, okay, we want this whether they have the same pose, whether it's bland, whether it's soulless, whether it's dynamic, whether it's static, that visual top like finish is going to come from art direction. The same way that whether they choose to go with something that's a lot more like, guys like this guy standing, and maybe they want to do guy standing for all of these, whereas opposed to maybe they want to be like a crazy action shot for their portrait work. So that's art direction, okay? So those are already a lot of variables that you're getting into that is going to create a added layer to successfully making good, consistent work, and at an appropriate time to when whoever set the release date for, okay? Without putting delays in. And especially once the game has already been teased, to push back a date is going to be less likely to happen, as opposed to when they have not even announced it either as a teaser at some sort of convention. Like if it has not even been sprinkled out to public knowledge, and I'm not counting leaks, they are not going to try and hold anyone down to a deadline. Whereas when it is, I think I blanked out for a second there, so I may have not said that correctly or not, but I believe you get my point. So, that was like my first piece, right? Like, or I don't think this was the order, but anyways, that was like a huge thing that I really wanted to address, that people often don't realize. And this is even just as an artist perspective. I see this all the time in like the comments on Steam pages of games, especially games that are in early access. Like, oh, dead game, dead game. I'm like, dude, how the heck did you play 300 hours of this game when it's only been out for a weekend? Like, you somehow played time that doesn't even exist yet. Okay? And this is not meant to be a dig. Like, if you're a streamer, that's how you make your living, that's fine. But some of us have 9-to-5 jobs and are lucky if we can squeeze in an hour or two of gaming a week. All right? So it's a lot of people think that games are take less work to make. And this is part of the thing that perpetuates people's inclination to use AI is, demand. Demand for give me my product now versus give me the quality. And obviously not everyone feels that way. I think this has been a really good example comparison to something like Hades and Hades 2. A lot of people were like, you know what, take your sweet time. If it gets us something as good as Hades, do what you gotta do. Especially people who actually care about, the quality of life for workers and not giving them crunch time. But anyways, not every company's like that. Um, so that's my little piece, my little hot take. So I did kind of talk about like that quality, like good, bad, briefly. So in parts to bias, like I'm gonna pull up some of these originals if you haven't been, I don't know, googling them on the side while I've been chattering away. Mythology original art. Sorry, I'm googling this on another page here. All right, like I saw people like talking about, okay, I guess some people compared, but like some of this stuff, like like dude, this is not the most original ideation of Zeus or Thor. Like they're not particularly imaginative in terms of character design. Um and oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever seen like this full background image, and I don't know if it's real, but I think it's because we got a lot of, oh, maybe it's, anyways, I'm learning things. um I'm trying to find the one that this one that someone was comparing, saying like, oh, what was his comment here? We're gonna go take a look at this. I'm gonna find this comment. He's like, some pictures like that. Okay, we're gonna put this back on my screen here. This picture, he's going like, the original gods are like, I don't know. I guess like they were saying like this might be like a, they don't want to change because of pictures like this. Like maybe were they more into it because, well, there was like someone's comment like it may not be the best, but it was like compelling in some way or whatever. Unreal. Like unreal. Like not even talking about like technicalities, but like this face is not the greatest either. It's really not, and this was like the thumbnail. Oh, like this is what this art is, the like if you go like this, that that's the thumbnail of the Age of Mythology icon when you give it a desktop shortcut. And I hate it. I've hated it. I've always hated it. I don't know why, because like when it zoomed out, it just looked janky. This isn't as bad, but like this, even if I take this piece out, like maybe there was more to the image, but like if this is the actual cropping and there's not more to this image that's just been cut out for where it was posted, like, dude, it's not really any better. Like, you're cutting off the action here, you have nothing in the back here. Like, if I were to talk about composition, sure, you got a little bit of tension, but like, there's so many things that you could actually do more with this, honestly. And I don't know what's with the red fire, uh, like but some of those are going to be stylistic choices, but like this isn't like without flaws. Or like if you wanted, like sometimes like this, I think the wings here are almost a little bit too perfect. There's not really as much perspective here that there probably should be, especially if his head was turned a bit more. Like, yeah, that's the other thing. He's like got this weird angle, I guess, where if he was actually looking to the character, uh, it would be a little bit more like this, and you're gonna have like that, or maybe tilt it a bit more up and give that, and then maybe you'd want to put this guy like a little bit lower, right? And you're gonna give like can't draw a bird, like his head like that. That's gonna give a more direct line. Whereas right now, what we're seeing is like he's looking more up. He's looking more down. You're losing this tension of conflict here that you could have in this compositional piece. So even if I'm taking away those like visual elements, those stylistic elements, a lot of that top level treatment, it's not like it's not without its own faults. And this is where it probably is a little bit of nostalgia, or like what makes you think of that original game. But it's like this is where I'm going, like bias of like what's considered good versus what's considered bad. And the art of this game, I think I saw a lot of people saying it was more had more of a feel of something Renaissance classical portraits with influences of like 70s 80s retro, like pulp fiction sci-fi or something. I could be getting the comparisons wrong, but like I mean, you know what I'm talking about. Or like you can Google it. But that, like this is where it's there's flaws, but there's going to be flaws, AI or not AI. There's going to be things that are going to be good, that are not good. And this is my thing, exactly saying, like, if human art is valuable and AI art is valuable, I could be getting the wrong word, but but there's imperfections in both. The argument of it's not good enough does not hold. Okay? Does not hold. The same way I said that, like, it hinders young artists who are wanting to make art, whether they're looking for a job or not. They just want to draw. Like, it's bad. Bad argument stands. Okay, so let's get to, like, I guess AI misconceptions. Okay, I'll loop back before I get into these other points here. AI misconceptions, at least for my company, or at least my department, they have come to the conclusion that AI, at the very least at its current state, is more work than it is worth for the kind of stuff we do. We do more intricate character design. We have to do iterations. We have to do callouts. We have to basically do kind of the equivalent of, like, like if I was like an architect, like the blueprint draft of something for modelers. That is too complicated for AI. Whether it can get to a level of finish like this, or not, doesn't matter when it comes to a model being like, okay, well, you have this nice image. Now, what does it look like from the back? And the AI right now can't give me this picture of Loki from the back with, like, those details actually aligned. Like, if it gave me a thing of the back, it would just draw, like, give me a different image with maybe a different style, but it would not be like, okay, the shoulder plate actually goes like here and this goes here, and maybe he has like a shield in the back. Like, it's not going to tell. Maybe in that other image it's going to give him short hair, whereas, like, maybe he's got long hair. Like, this is the stuff that AI can't do right now. Which honestly artists would rather do. Be like, I just want to design the cool stuff. You can draw the orthographics. Not everyone wants to be doing like this, like lining it up and lining this up and then drawing it from the back. Like, that shit's annoying and tedious. It's good to help you understand things, actually. It's really good for learning, but it's not fun to do. Like, it's not creative necessarily. It's problem solving, but it's not creative in the way that just drawing a fancy illustration is. So that's the main thing, is like, if you compare, like, these splash arts is probably the only part where, like, even if the company said, oh, all the gods are, like, they made a statement apparently on Twitter saying it is all done by artists or whatever. Okay, well, they said it's done by artists, but they didn't say to what extent. Is it started AI and they're doing touch-ups afterwards? Honestly, most likely. But if you look at the other stuff that they're doing, like, it looks great. Like, I think the model remasters are looking fine. I think they're really successful. Oh my gosh, my thing is glitching the crap out when I'm trying to take this snip. Give it to me. Like this on my other screen. This. Like, this looks great. Like, and there's probably concept art that actually details this that looks great. And it probably is great. But we don't see it. I think there might be a chance that someone used AI and whatnot to inspire themselves, if this is how they're doing the gods art, like the splash art. But at the end of the day, someone had to model that. That's just, like, someone had to model it, and if someone had to model it, someone probably had to do callouts for it, and if someone had to do callouts for it, someone had to draw it. It's the same way with the video where they actually go over some of those models. Like, this is really well done in a lot of aspects, and this clearly is done by an art department. It's probably more than just 2D art, but it is done by an art department. And I think that's where a lot of their money went into. So this is where it's going to go into tying to that operations piece, trends operations, because the company being like I said, oh no, we have a crap ton of artwork to do, splash art that could be super expensive and take a lot of time to do. But we have more, but the more of the gameplay, like this, the art it's definitely what you see visually and what you're going to think of, I think, most as the part that's supposed to sell the game or be the face of the game. But the content of the game is not reliant on this art the way that those models are, the way that this is more reliant on actual gameplay that people are actually going to be interacting with for the most part. So they're going to cut if they're tight on budget, especially for a game like this that it's not, despite it's actually really well success, not as well known or sold in its original versions the way Age of Empire was versus Age of Mythology. And the fact that this company isn't like this game's not being developed by a single company. When you load up the beta that they have released for this weekend, one of the first like mini screens in loading that you get is this. You get this. All right, and this is what shocks me is that in a beta they're listing all these companies because aside from it, unless it's you have the developer versus publisher, which are two different things by the way. Sometimes they could be the same, but this is developed and by multiple companies and is being published by, I think, a different company because the property, I believe, is owned under Microsoft, but it's not listed here in these companies. These are the companies that have been contacted to help to create the game. So now we're not also just working, like I said, art direction across different artists, but also different companies, which adds another layer to that complexity. And if a game is being developed not in-house entirely, you have more split resources, more things to consider factoring in terms of money, and there's going to be a higher chance of them to cut corners, which then results in the things of AI generated art. So whether the artists are starting with something AI generated and then touching it up, I'm going to tell you right now, some artists of those are probably going to be like, man, you know what? I really wish this wasn't how it was going, but this is my job and this is what they have me doing. Whereas other people are going to be like, I'm still getting paid and I don't give a fuck. Okay? Like, that's just facts. All right? It's sad, but it's facts. It's just another factor. Like, you got so many extra moving pieces here. So if you're cutting corners and you're thinking model's most important, gameplay's most important, we have a release date, we're working with so many different companies. All right, we're doing AI generated stuff, but it's going to be painted over because it is. So like where I'm getting into that quality bit, like if I actually like zoom in like and I was like if I was like a art director or a lead for this and I was like, you know, this is a pretty decent start, but I'm not too sure about this part here. You know, it's a little unclear what's happening. I'm not totally certain if it's supposed to be like a thing of closing. Is it like a mermaid tail? I don't know. I mean, like this here is not so bad, but like, it could be better. Like we could probably have more proper like foreground splash and something to actually keep the action going in here since they're gonna go with that, and then it could be a little bit more. And then you could have maybe you could have part where it covers the staff in the front, but where the staff still sticks out in front of this. But you have a water splash that is a foreground into this wave. You know, we're gonna fix the fact that this wave looks like it's going off this way, but I could even just right now, like this has a lot of painty brush touch-ups. I could do that shit right now. Like, we're gonna just paint and we're gonna like just extend a bunch of stuff. Like I'm not even doing the best job. Oh, that looks like it's a little odd. So we're gonna connect that here. And that's what they did for this piece. Like even like I'm telling you, like this hand, it could have even just been taken off a photo and maybe someone ran a Photoshop filter, but it looks like they just took a brush and went over it a little bit. Whether it was AI or photo. You probably have cases of both going on in here. This is obviously painted over top. This, the termination could be a little bit weird, but it depends what what they're wanting. I think realistically we got like neck issues here or whatever. But like maybe we want to create consistency between like the style here is a little bit more consistent, but this definitely feels a little bit different. And maybe we're gonna bring that a little bit in more. Like it's not that hard, guys, to do. Like I know for some people like, wow, this is wizardry. I wish it was always done by an artist. But this is what I'm saying. Like, if someone else pointed out that like in a splash art like this, the focus is gonna be here, maybe here, because you have this weapon. This is probably the issue with this piece. You know, this looks very disconnected from the rest of the image. This is the one that people are complaining about the most. Um, uh, Even though someone else said that they found this one was worse. They have different issues. The fact is, I think this hand holding this piece feels a little bit awkward. There's some issues here. Whatever I'm pointing out, or like when someone was saying like, well, this like terminates right here, and then there's like, dude, I can tell you this piece right here, this was painted over. This little blue line thing, that was painted over. This probably not so much. It looks like there was like some other minor things done in the background, but they're the background. It doesn't matter because if this wasn't had something that was giving someone quote unquote AI red flags, I can guarantee you wouldn't be like, let me zoom in on this detail and like look at it how it's wrong. Like the way that you guys probably weren't zooming in on being like how this like doesn't look like it be super accurate, or like you're not gonna be zooming like, well, I don't know about like this hand here or something, like, well, what's going on here? This is a little unclear. Is that a glow or is it snake? Like if this was dude, someone could make the argument if they didn't know any better that this was AI generated with like a filter for like, you know, crunching quality, because like, oh no, like a lot of people want to say like, oh, stuff means it merging into other, like it almost looks like this staff is like being merged into itself because of the glow. I'm actually not sure if this is supposed to like stop or if it's supposed to continue in, or is it like supposed to go like this? I don't actually know what that this is supposed to be defined as. So as I'm saying, it's not a good excuse, guys. um so like the going over the touch up, like this will be done in Photo Bash. It really will be. The low-key one, like this one, it's sad because you have like a different styled wolf to this character. Like these are two different styles, and I wouldn't be surprised if the wolf was actually painted and put over top, or if the wolf was, I mean, it looks more like it because this is not symmetrical. This, you know, this was generated separately, then someone cut it and pasted it onto the rest of the image, okay? I don't think those two things were done together, and I also think that the background might have been done a little bit separately. There's various things with this, but it's not necessarily an AI issue. I've seen this happen in people who actually do the piece start to finish themselves, okay? Whether it's on ArtStation, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's DeviantArt, whether it's people at my office, okay? It happens when you don't have solid art direction, okay? Which is probably the real thing that unified this, is because they only had a number of artists in the original Age of Mythology, artists or artist, and that's what created a little bit more of a visual consistency, is probably because there was less people working on it, and maybe a longer amount of time. I honestly don't know. So my next other piece is going to be, if you have an issue with something, instead of baselessly saying, oh, it's AI, even if there's a very high chance, and it probably is, here's a couple things that I suggest you do before you try and to do that, like zoom in and be like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, okay? Before you do that, and especially for people who be like, I don't believe the statement, even though like on Twitter they said our artists are doing it, but it totally looks AI. This is what I suggest you do, okay? Look up who worked on it. Okay? Who worked on it? And I don't just mean like company, and also in this case, companies, because we got more than one, as you saw, but also the actual artist. Look up the company. Look up the artist. Look at the company. Can you find on LinkedIn or any other site the artists at that company, the lead artists at that company, especially because this is beta and this hasn't gone full release. If in 3 months after release, I see no art posted on ArtStation or LinkedIn or any other platform by a game like this that is very much a nostalgia-based market, I would be surprised if I didn't see someone posting like, I mean, I've already seen some people talking about just sharing the trailer because they're not allowed to share the direct assets right now. That's a whole other process as someone who works in the industry. The game may be out and the thing you worked on may be in the game, but you still can't say exactly what you worked on until someone else says you can. That's just how it goes. That's how NDAs work. You know, someone posts saying, "Oh, I grew up with this game and I was so excited to work on the remaster. Here's some of the things I worked on." If that doesn't show up 3 months, 5 months, 8 months, a year after, then that would probably more likely confirm the chance of AI. Does not guarantee it. It's not 100% because they could still also be denied to being even shared about it, okay? At least the actual art. But you're still likely to find someone who's at least makes a post saying they worked on it. And then you can look up them on wherever they may be out there, social media, and find samples of their art. Does it look like it's AI generated? And their personal artwork or other games they worked on may be vastly different from the art that we're seeing here, regardless, because like my art looks very different to what I do for my job because the need. But there will still be signs for you to see whether, like, do they use AI in their personal art flow? Yes or no? They don't. It doesn't look like that they do. So then maybe it really was a higher up executive decision that they didn't have a choice, or maybe they did choose to do it, in which case people saying, okay, the company was told something and the artist was lying to them. Once again, that's even more harmful. So I think I'm almost walking into red territory here. Do not look up the artist and then say it's their fault. Okay? Because I'm already pissed that people are saying the art is AI generated. What if it's not? Like, even if it looks very much like it, and I'm making a lot of points that it is, if it's not, once again, you are just making more harmful comments to the artists themselves, which is not good. And if you say that, then companies are really gonna believe, okay? So much of my video is gonna be taken out of context if this goes viral, but it's not because no one watches my channel. But like, if someone takes that belief that it's like AI, even if it's not, that further reinforces companies to just use AI and not use actual artists. Okay? Because they're thinking audience can't tell the difference, so let's just do it. It'll save money. Who gives a crap? All right? So this is where I get into like, that this last piece, this really big piece, okay? Because like trend and operation was like that money piece, like this is where the company's looking like, what is the need, operation, like what's our budget, how many people do we have, staffing again, like, and trend, this is where we're gonna be like, oh well, what's hot right now, what sells, like what stuff do we want to sell? This is where you're getting things to like art direction. Do we want to continue having, does we want this remaster to have that classical Renaissance feel with those other influences, or do we want to go with something else? Actually, I'll talk about this a little bit more before getting to fixed presentation, but they tie in together. Like, well, what's the real issue? Like, this is where we're getting into like the trend and issue, the trend in operation that influences, what will actually fix seeing companies use AI and prevent companies from using AI, instead of saying like, oh, it looks AI or looks bad. Why does this look not good? Why does this look not as good as the as the original artwork? Like, whether it's nostalgia based or not, like what about this or any of this artwork do you feel? Because when they're saying, oh, it looks soulless or compared, or like, no, I'm gonna be with you guys, this art is not particularly like dynamic or wow either. It's actually pretty generic, probably for the era, and probably pretty generic for whoever was actually working on it. I didn't even look up the artist. This other thing, you could probably just look up the artist who actually worked on the game. Like, it definitely, like, is generic in a different way. So here we got this was the biggest one that I liked that I saw, was the quote unquote Marvelization, or like that mobile game file mobile feel, excuse me. uh that's really what this is, especially like this and this. Okay, that's probably what people are most deterred, but they couldn't put it into words. It looks generic, or it feels basic, because it is very common looking, because this is the kind of art that you would see something in like this style, whether it's realistic like this or soft rendered or whatever. In the trend for games and for art, and the reason why people kept using that quote unquote trending on ArtStation in their AI generated, was because that was what was so widespread. It's very similar to how all Marvel movies feel the same. I don't care whether you're a fan or not. The plots are all exactly the freaking same. I I have beef with that. But like, it's because it's all you're seeing all the time, because that was the trend and that sold. Okay, it sold. The first couple, it was Iron Man, then Guardians of the Galaxy totally redid how the Marvel movies were made in terms of humor and beats and storyline, and then they didn't have to have AI to be like almost self-consuming, like degenerative off their own derivative degenerative movies. Okay, like they did that themselves in creating a film without needing AI. Okay, and so this is the thing, companies are seeing what sells, what looks good, what will look good to the audience, and so they're just going to be like, oh well, people play a lot of games that have this, or have a lot of games like this, or whatever it may be, and so they're going to design it off that. This is where it really does come back into that art direction, because you probably didn't have an artist being like, okay, what? There probably wasn't. I think there was like art director, but once again, there's tons of different companies. There's a higher demand. I think the art direction was very much focused on the model, especially because that's what that video on YouTube really showcased, was the 3D model aspect of it. It did not showcase the splash art aspect of it, and that's where all their focus went into, because once again, that's gameplay. So when they're talking about what visuals, like what image, what wow image is going to get people to play our game, they're looking at the AI art, because the AI art can do everything that's common, everything that's generic, whether it's a dynamic action pose or static pose like these, whether it's consistent art style or not. All this artwork fits something very similar, and it's repetitive. That is the biggest piece, is it's repetitive to so many things that we've already seen. So that's what we got. Um, Whereas if you had someone in that role and they had the money and the flexibility given to them by the people above them, someone very likely who loves this franchise, loves this original game, would have said, let's sit down and create a Bible. You have to create Bibles, guys. You have to create large documents often. Maybe it's just a PowerPoint with a couple slides. There will always be some sort of documentation to indicate what the looks will be, and that person might have been like, okay, I don't want to do the quote unquote like these things. I don't want to do these things because they're done all over the place, and I don't think the viewers want this. Maybe they would choose to have done something that was more reminiscent of the original game. And I can tell you that even if the portraits were still in these exact same poses, but just executed differently in terms of style, and there wasn't something that really screamed quote unquote AI, people would have been completely fine. All right. Or someone saying like, oh, it's because the backgrounds are too busy, whereas the other one, the backgrounds were a lot more simplistic. They just had like, maybe a gradient or something very simple, but there wasn't like, you can see trees and northern lights or whatever. There was less background noise or whatever. Like, maybe that would have been something that the art director could have gone for. Uh, these are the things that determine whether something's going to be stylized or realistic. And honestly, as looking at some of that original Age of Mythology art, like the concepts for some of that, uh, like were for the models, like these are very stylistically drawn. Like these are not that like Renaissance, like pulp sci-fi or whatever the frick the guy compared it to. Like, it's not. It's really nothing like that, but it's so different from this. The models of the designs for the actual characters and units in the game is so different from this cover art that we see. And I never based the experience of the game based on this cover art. It's so different. Um like, there's a lot of feel in some of these things that could have been very likely translated into this remake while still being fresh and new and somewhat original, but keeping nostalgia. There's just a lot of factors, and I'm sure there's a lot of people like, I totally agree with you, and you're just preaching to the choir. I'm like, yes, okay, but that's what I'm saying. That's what you need to voice, and you need to use that same thought process in any other game or movie or whatever piece of media that you feel or someone has convinced you or someone actually flat out proves, hey, this was done with usage of AI. That's what you need to use, okay? Because the the moral standpoint of it being made human art and the does it look good enough are not gonna work. Okay? I wish the standpoint of as an artist, I wish art was given much more value in our society so that we could, make more money. But like that's the best way to put ourselves on that, unfortunately, in this current age of economy, is not going to be by saying just give me more money because I'm a human. It's sad, but it's true. Um, and to say AI is not good enough, like I said, eventually is going to be good enough. As much as I do want AI to actually do my automated tasks, as someone once posted, I do not remember the comment, like, I want AI to like wash my dishes, do my laundry so I can make art. Like, like we have to actually address the points. Because when you used AI, they just were taking a lot of these things. And even if you could find, say, tell it be like, oh, we'll actually do these in, like, let's say the style of the Hades game and make it more stylistic. It can look really good and it can look really finished, but it's gonna just look like the Hades game because it cannot. And maybe it'll be like, oh, we'll fuse the two. It's gonna fuse them, but like, or you could say, oh, take this realistic stuff and fuse it with the design sense and aesthetics of the original game. It's gonna be lacking something because the AI was not meant to solve that. This is where people say, oh, it takes me so long to type a prompt to get something to actually work. And this is why my company doesn't bother, because we have to fix so many issues that it is actually the same amount of time or even more time than just doing it by ourselves from scratch for all the things that we have to fix. And also, it means that we're working off a flat image. We don't actually have the source file to make those edits and changes for any future iterations that an art director or a creative director might want. Let's say, like I said, if they want to change these colors or whatever, like, it's possible. It's just a big pain. And some things just aren't possible without redoing it anyways. Like, they said, well, make him, like, can you flip him so he's the other way? Well, I can't do that. If you want to keep the horses going this way, I can't flip this dude and face the other way without having to paint a ton of shit behind it, unless you're using, like, content aware fill, which is a feature in Photoshop, and it's a lot of AI stuff. But, like, you're still gonna run into issues that we're gonna require paint over and cleanup, and that's what requires the artist eye, or to have someone look at these and say they're consistent, because the AI, even in that one dude's video I saw where he was basically creating this image, again, himself in AI, it did not give him the same exact style every single time, even though he said, give me the same image in this style, but with, like, a different cat head. Like, he still couldn't even get it down to that point. And, even if AI got to the level where it was doing that, I just think that there's a lot of other things involved that would be made as a better case. Like I said, it's the marvelization and the mobile feel, and what is it about that we don't actually like? Because if it was so good that I couldn't tell it was AI and no one had pointed out to me, I'm not saying that's not what happened, but I'm saying theoretically, if I had looked at it and I saw, there's no way that this is AI, and no one told me this is AI and gave me the statistical evidence for it, I would probably look at these and be like, you know what? They're decent splash art. They're fine. But, I was hoping for maybe something that would feel more like ancient civilizations, you know, Age of Mythology. I would have hoped, for me in my dream, the art, splash art, the style for each of these characters represented them, that was reflective of their culture. I would have liked the artwork of Bast to have a more visual style distinct of something of ancient Egypt. The same thing with Poseidon and, you know, Greek Atlantean, Loki, Norse Odin. Like, I would want the visuals of their portraiture to have those stylistic elements of their culture, not just in the stylistic elements of like the colors and what their armors looked. I mean, in the treatment. Okay, give me something that maybe not like as like flat drawing as like actual, you know, Egyptian art, but you know, like you, there are ways to do that, and that requires an actual artist to get into the nitty gritty and be like, well, okay, how can we apply that to all three of these things and also keep them connected consistently? And what is that unifying factor? And that is the part that is way too complicated to explain to an AI, but an artist could figure out. And if it's done executed, I'm sure that will be the kind of thing that people like, wow, I really love this. It really makes the game feel like, you know, refreshing and new and original, but still pays homage to, you know, um, the actual first game, and you know, all those sorts of pieces. And you know, I wish that the art felt more something like an RTS game than like like I said, Marvelization, something that feels more like a mobile game, or like, you know, a movie poster art, any sort of thing, whatever it may be. You know, there's so much opportunity, and that's what we should be talking about more than like this should be made by an artist. We should be like, I think AI is limiting an opportunity because it's not going to invent something new. It can combine something, but it's not going to invent something new. And people are saying like, well, that's no different. Like AI just like can take those three things and put it together. And you might even have the happy accent along the way. It's like, but application can, through all those other factors, like I said, how many you have to create, when you gotta meet them, how much are you gonna have to touch up, what if they want changes, if something's not working. Like, there's just, I don't know. Like, you just, there's a better argument out there, and a more realistic one, than it's not good enough. And instead of being like, well, everything's AI now, all doom and gloom, I'm not gonna have a job, you know, be an artist that can explain these things to your employer, to your client. You know, even if you don't have the technical skill level to maybe execute it the way you see it in your brain or the way someone describes, you know, like, this is like, I'm not saying you have to become a lawyer, but you need to be able to actually defend your craft. That's not hindering on like, just does it look polished enough? Because polished enough, like, to get something polished and to get something fast, you don't even need AI to do. Like, there are people out there that can do that, but they just cost so much freaking money. All right, like, it's the Venn diagram, you know, like, it's the Venn diagram of like money and originality and speed. All right, and to get that little piece in the center is like the dream. But most games, most companies, whatever, are only gonna hit two of them, if at all. Alright? It's just like, I'm getting to the end of my bit here. I hope you enjoyed my analysis. Like, I was not gonna go into the super nitty gritty of like every actual detail, and this is, like I said, it's analysis a little bit on a more higher bit. So in the fixed and percentage topic, as I said, you need to consider those things. Like, if you're like, I don't like that this game is using AI art and I don't want to support it, okay, don't buy the game. That's fine. But people, you know, this is the once again, like, unless everyone boycotts the game's gonna launch, it's gonna do fine, it's gonna have success. Especially a game like this that's riding on so much nostalgia because they did invest the time and money into the actual gameplay and the actual models, not the splash art, which is not the hindrance of the game. What you should do if you're leaving a review or something to any kind of game that you feel has an issue with art or voice acting or whatever it is that you feel is used AI or not done as well. Like, I saw better arguments for the voice acting. They were not, I did not see people being like, I think this voice acting was done with AI or was like, generated voices. They actually said it feels like they don't emote enough or that they just aren't capturing the mood of what's happening in the scene. The line delivery is not good. I feel like they needed a better director. Why aren't people saying that about the art? Like, instead of just saying like, oh, the artists are lazy or the company's lazy, the company doesn't give a shit if you think it's lazy if it's still a success. Okay? What you need to do is say, like, especially the people saying, I'm not going to play the game because I loved the campaign and the voice acting is too distracting, and I don't want to turn off the voice acting, so I actually would rather just play the original with the less good gameplay graphics. Like, give them a compelling argument, which is like that the voice acting needed better direction, that they needed someone to actually give proper voice acting direction. The overall arguments on the voice acting part was better than the complaints about the art. Most people just go like that's where, like, it's buzzword problem. People saying, oh, it's AI, and then there are gonna be people like who go, ugh, everyone complains about AI, but it's totally fine, like hardcore AI pros. Or people are gonna be like, AI is the end of all art and artists, and there's no hope for us in the future. Like, okay, I'm not discounting like real problems, but like, you can't be polarized, guys. I don't care if I'm getting accused as someone who's more centrist, because this is not a political thing. This is it's just technology. It's just facts, and it's just realism, like of our society, of how things are developed and made. And I'm using this in the specific context of the game industry because this is what I have experience in. So you want to fix it? You want to be preventive? Tell them why. Tell them why you don't like that art. Not because it's AI, but say, and don't just say like, oh, the old stuff was better, because it's not. It's not better. Say what you liked about the old stuff. I liked that it felt like this. I liked that it felt like it was more classical Renaissance. I mean, the biggest one, actually, honestly. Let's like go this, like, Gaia, that literally just looks like a design of like a female Groot. Stupid. I don't care how it's rendered. The person who said it should feel more like a mother goddess, whether it's designed humanistic or not, she looks more like a dryad than she looks like Gaia, okay? And I don't care if it's perfectly rendered and there's not the wrong amount of fingers. That's the issue with that design, is that it looks like female Groot, and that's the marvelization of this. It's 100% that. And whether that this AI art, no, this AI art, this splash art was done by an actual artist that was influenced by the AI designs, if they're 100% AI designs. Like I said, I'm not gonna make a full confirmed stance, but at least, mostly done. That whether this was done by an actual artist or not, they were given a design that looks like that. That's the real problem, guys. Not that it's AI. It's the fact that this is the design we got. Like, I'm not even gonna talk about the details of what makes a good composition or not, because that's a whole thing. But like, that's what you should be. That's what we should speak up about. And don't make this like a hate on the individual artists or not. Even though I made that point of saying, like, this is what I was saying, the part about like looking up the actual artist and the companies that they work for, this comes on the line of, like said, to determine whether it was AI or not. But if the artist chose to use AI or not, especially if it's being painted over, especially because they're probably under crunch time, especially because they have high demands, don't go after them. It's really, honestly, not the end of the world. The real issue you should be taking up is saying, I would rather not have a game create an art direction that is so reliant on such high demands that forces an artist to use AI, or that they chose to hire an artist that use AI. Because I'm not here to come out at like the whole are AI artists real artists or not, because once again, misconceptions, application, all those factors. It should really be like, why? Well, because it means that they just have I like their ideas are being reused by someone else. Maybe they don't have the most original ideas, but maybe they're really good at making perfect renderings if they have the right amount of time and don't have to work off a pre-done image. Maybe they could render something super good, but you could have someone else do the designs and then they would make the splash art. I don't know, just encourage good business practices, I guess. Good game development practices is what I'm saying. Yeah. I think I got that on my system now. That was irking me as just someone who works in the industry and is an artist, and I've just been through all points of it. Like, when you have to cut corners, I'm gonna be real with you, when you gotta pay your bills, you don't care. But also, we should stop just, the baseless accusations are stupid. And even if someone else presents the facts and be like, oh, well, so and so proved my point, I'm like, no, no, no. You made that post claiming that thing before you knew the facts behind it. And the facts behind it that other person presented came with limited information. And that video, like, he's not. I mean, I didn't Google the rest of the channel to see if he was a video. This is once again where if you got TikTok brain, and you just like take everything at face value and you don't research. This is what creates misinformation. And I'm gonna be real, that's gonna come back to get you. Misinformation is not just about cancel culture or call out posts, because that, like, someone is gonna hear something you say and take it at face value and you'll be like, but that's not what I said. Dude, it's gonna come at you. So maybe we should all just take a moment, think, be like, fact check it. And guess what? If you don't want to put the time into fact checking it, like, I don't even fully fact check everything I talk about. I didn't go into every artist to look at every artist that might have worked on this game, mostly because it's all those details aren't out yet. But like, this is why I'm not gonna say like, shame on you to the artist for doing that, because I don't know the factors behind it. But I wasn't just gonna look at it and be like, oh, it's AI generated, who cares either. Like, just, if it's something that you feel like you have an opinion strong enough to make a post about it on the Steam page, at least do the bare minimum, because it's harmful for the development of games. You can't just say bad game, you can't just say dead game, you can't just say, oh, you used AI. Because it's not the actual artists who are going to be looking at those comments on the Steam page. It's not the executives. It's probably someone else whose actually job is to read those reports, filter out what's important and what's not. And if that person was told by whoever that, like, oh, our stuff is made by human artists, they're going to completely disregard any forum comment that says, I'm not buying your game because it's AI art. Because they were told by someone else, legitimate or not, otherwise. So instead of saying, you can be like, if you want to make the comment in like a more detailed written part, but at least in the tagline, the header, be like, wish art was more reminiscent of original. That is a much more direct feedback that someone who has nothing to do with the development of the game can actually take in their like input field and send off to like the trickle down of who gets what feedback to improve something when it goes out of like whether it's beta or early access or whatever to the further development. Like, that is, like, there's like complaining, and then there's constructive criticism, and there's also like constructive criticism that like gives people like an actual nugget to chew on, not just like, my constructive criticism is your art could be better. Yeah, you're not saying it's AI, but you're just saying could be better. Be better how? Like, you get what I'm saying? So yeah, that's my thing. This is like an hour long. I don't know if I'll actually post it. I'm not editing this. I'm not. Enjoy my hour 15-minute art analysis. Uh Here, let's do a thing to make as the thumbnail. Ready? We're gonna be like this. Be like my shitty grayscale like clip studio screenshot. Be like, oh man, this is the real joy, guys. Art analysis. I think I'm writing that right. Shit, I'm not. Am I? Guys, I don't know how to spell. Don't come at me. I know, I think I was fine. Okay, yeah. Shit. Aw, damn. I hate it when I do that. I almost say like art analysis hour. Yeah. Hour. Art analysis hour. Even though it's not hour. Alright. Thanks for sticking around. See you in the next time. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'll actually draw. Maybe I'll do more of these. I don't frickin' know. My channel's chaos at this point. KK. Goodbye.